All right. So my break's already halfway over. 15-minute break. I have maybe 7 minutes left here. I'm just gonna try and offload a couple of thoughts that I had thinking throughout the day about critical activism and yeah, probably just gonna use this as notes for later. I don't think I'll even have enough time to contemplate or get into get into any of it really. Um, so I wanted to kind of, I guess, critique the or incorporate critique of some of the activism that I see out there. The way just taking liberalism or progressivism as a potentially positive striving for liberty, freedom, for justice, and all this kind of stuff. Social justice warriors, all this kind of stuff. It's like the heart's in the right place, but the mind is still trapped, and the paradigm is not being is not being transcended. In fact, all the various different intersections or whatever of the different types of prejudice or minority or disability or sexuality. It's like all the different ways that we can presumably be different or fit into different boxes. All the ways we can fit each other into different boxes are articulated in a never-ending stream of alphabet soup, in which we utilize to gauge each other and to judge each other and to determine whose side we're on and all this kind of stuff. But meanwhile, this is simply an extension of alienation. Even though it looks good, like we are appearing to take care of everybody in their own, and considering that everyone in their own unique category. In fact, people are not categories. People are not defined by their appearance or defined by their by a certain category of sexuality or skin color or gender, any of this kind of stuff. Now, that's not to say that these kind of categorical navigation can't be partially utilized to help to bootstrap a more nuanced interaction. But it's going to all come down to the same thing. Are we experiencing another human being right in front of us, or are we experiencing an intersection of categories by which to judge and navigate another person? In other words, are we simply continuing on this alienation process and oversimplifying things in our way of navigating? And then, of course, talking about this or making this kind of suggestion is going to make people upset, that they feel they have no way of being of making their voice heard and their particular group known and accepted, that their group is accepted. But again, just as how religion has divided into so many different denominations, politics has gone into so many different parties. I mean, in theory, in practice, people have metastatic binary choice of conserve or progress. A false dichotomy, obviously, because some things need to be conserved, and we always need to be aware of the danger of conservatism in in of course this way that the old patterns can be projected onto reality, onto experience, and thereby overwriting it. And again, we have here the insensitive non-relationship with the outside world, where our mind is neurotically projected onto categorically onto everything. And this is not the right way to treat each other as a set of categories. And so even though good intentions here, they are paving the road to hell, and we are simply finding all the ways to divide against each other. And then of course you're going to have the gays versus the trans and all this kind of stuff, and it's never that this type of thinking never actually ends anywhere. And of course this is why I point to the meta organization, the meta religion, if you will. And this is to say that essentially we must take care to have a relationship with everything that onto which we presumably project our categories, our view of things. So anytime we do this, and so here I'm saying that it's not necessarily bad to have categories, because we need them for navigation. But if we are not going beyond that and realizing the dynamic nature and how to prevent alienating each other, if we are not doing that, then we are failing anyways, and the good intentions are for nothing, and people are being alienated anyways, and you're having these in-group out-group dynamics, and again, things are being navigated in a very simplistic way, a naively incredibly simplistic way, that is basically autopilot for the mind, to fall back on categories and to not be in a real communion with the world, with the outside. Instead, we are just projecting our views onto the others, and of course that is this is basically how bigotry is ingrained into the left's approach to this, whatever you call it, intersectionality, or the finding all the ways that we can divide against each other, when meanwhile we need actually to certainly acknowledge that people are different in certain ways, and in ways that we can accommodate and recognize as patterns, but that each individual has to be is beyond those categories. That person right in front of you is beyond any kind of categories. You don't have any idea what potentially their history is, how they became who they are. And these categories that we use to identify ourselves and each other is a crude crutch upon which we cannot rely.